Yeah, I'll probably talk for like maybe 5 minutes about how we do things, and then we can start fielding questions, and I'll just get into animating. Um, so the way our process works, here's Photoshop. Chris hands off a full image of the guy he's drawn, and he'll give me like a combat idol and a regular idol when they're not in combat that we end up using for idols and walks. And then he gives me like a bunch of attack poses and a defend pose. And for the ones that actually animate, so the combat idol, the walk, and the regular idol, I'll take them into Photoshop and I'll start cutting them up into bits. And so you can see all the little parts here. And then I wrote like an exporter from Photoshop, which will just export all these into PNG format. Uh, and then I bring them into this package called Spine, made by Esoteric Software, where we have all the images, and the images basically get uh, initially just parented to these joints. So I'll sort of like use the full image as a guide and start pulling in all the all the cutouts basically onto the various, match them on top of the original image, and then basically draw bones, create the whole skeleton on top of that. And in some cases, like for large pieces like say this, instead of trying to cut it up, which is very tedious, I'll end up just leaving this as whole one piece, and then I can actually bind these joints to it and then weight these. And oh, sorry, I'll make a 2D mesh around it, and then I'll bind joints to that, and then weight the joints to these verts to these joints, so you can see how much weight each has based on these colors, that sort of thing. So yeah, anyway, so that's all the rigging part, and it's actually kind of good that last week's stream didn't work, because we probably just would have watched me rig for an hour, and that's not as interesting as watching somebody animate. So now all the rigging is done. You can see all the different parts. Like here's all the made meshes for like these bits and these bits. Basically anything that's going to be controlled by more than one joint, I actually I'll make a mesh and weight. So in earlier versions of Spine, they didn't have the skinning and weighting, and it was basically, in that case, I did have to cut up every single piece in Photoshop. Because so like an early guy like say the ghoul monster, which I did months ago, he's like 65 parts or something, because he's got all these bits of hair that move and everything. So anyway, that's basically it. So that was the setup part, and then here's the animation part, and then I'll pick a frame count that I think works for his combat idol, and then I'll just start with keying every single joint at the first and last frame, because it's going to loop, and sort of go from there. There's the only kind of weird thing maybe with this setup is there's no inverse kinematics for the animators out there that are listening. So I can't do anything for the legs, so I generally parent the feet to the root and then sort of build the legs out from the feet. So if we just look at this guy, the lips don't move in our game, Chris. There's no lip movement and no eye movement, because thankfully you've painted black soulless holes where everybody's eyes should go, so I don't have to animate eyes, which is awesome. So, oh, what's that? In all caps, move a joint. Okay. Do, 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 do. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Make sure there's actually stuff going on and not me just babbling. So that's you did a great job drawing those joints too, man. It's awesome. So here's just moving. You notice there's like pieces like this where there's like a gap and stuff like that. Well, I generally won't worry about filling those till the end when the animation's done, and then I'll see, oh, there's gaps, and then I'll go back into Photoshop and I'll sort of paint in a bunch of black or and in there so it looks okay. So, and honestly, I try not to move. I would never do this probably with his arms. So, yeah, stuff like that. So, anyway, sorry. Depends on the guy. I put probably more work into the heroes than I do some of the monsters. Like some of the monsters easy. Like the skeletal militia is like 27 joints or something, and he's quite straightforward. So he doesn't have a lot of parts with secondary animation. Like this guy's got these long sleeves, right? So you can see there's these joints in here. So I'm actually going to make these, once I get to that point, I'll actually like move these sleeves around. You know, all secondary and follow through that'll happen because of his main animation. So yeah, this guy took probably 2 hours to do from beginning to finish. Um, yeah, and then sorry, go ahead. I was going to say for animation, depending on the animation, like most sort of combat idols, probably I'll do the base in like less than an hour, and then probably spend another hour like polishing it and offsetting it. They have a nice offset tool now, which is great. So I will do everything on the so everything happens in this case on frame 16. These like 32 frames, and everything happens on frame 16. But you don't want all the joints to move on exactly the same frame, so they have an offset tool. So then I'll start moving outwards from the hips to like the fingers, and just like offset sort of each sort of consecutive piece by an extra frame. So I'll start the hips will be on 16, and then the spine will be on 17, and then the shoulder on 18, and then etc. and out like that. So and then you get some nice fluidity to the movement. So and that takes it used to take a lot longer to do that, and now they have this offset tool where I can do it in like 10 minutes. So yeah, absolutely. The early monsters took like probably twice as long as they take now. And I put sort of a little more I've been putting a little more love into the heroes and the monsters, depending on the hero. Like the boss monsters will get more love, and like big guys like the ghoul, because we really wanted him to look scary. Um, but I try to give everybody, yeah, I try to give everybody like equal amounts of animation love, but just some guys go quicker than others, and some guys like I really want this guy to stand out with his sleeves and stuff like. I mean, I even put bones in his mustache here, which I'm probably not gonna I'm probably not gonna animate, but I thought, it's there for the option. Yep. Yeah, very nice. Well done. Yeah, I thought about making it a little, put more in there, but I was just gonna do like a little bit of, that kind of thing, not do anything like real serious. I wasn't gonna have like, the whole his whole twirled up mustache, like the ends of it like flap like like a flag or something. It doesn't need. We're gonna assume he waxes it. Let's put. That's right. That well, right off his candle here on his skull, you can just like there's. Wow. All right. Anyway, that's all. Stop talking about our process now and just start animating, I guess. So, and you guys can field questions and babble. And if I act like I'm not paying attention, it's because I'm actually paying attention to animating and not listening to you. But yeah, just yell my name. What are we doing with it? Trouble hearing us. People can hear me fine? Okay. Uh, Interesting. I wonder. Let me just. No, no, here, hang on. I do have it on microphone, actually. I will put it to. Hopefully, everybody can still hear me when this happens. Okay, I'm going to set it to this. How's that? But you can hear me. I sound like I'm in jail. I kind of am. I'm in the basement. It's kind of a dungeon. Yeah, just want to make sure that's working for everybody. Better? Oh, you know what? You're hosting this. Okay. Back in 2 secs, folks. Da, 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 da. Right. Hi. And Kier should be back. How's that? Kier? Hi. Is that better for everybody? To do with my Skype. All right. Op- Audio options. Here we go. People can hear you and not Chris. Well, maybe just turn up your mic volume, dude. You are definitely quieter than Kier. Okay. How about if I turn up my speaker volume? How's that? Try that. Okay, we're gonna do this.
Just go ahead and animate. It's fine. I mean, I don't want to waste the fucking time troubleshooting again.
Should we go to spider drawing?
How's that?
I don't know. Now I have an echo.
Yeah, now there's an echo. Yeah, that's not a good idea.
Oh, now they can hear me, but I have an echo.
You're actually now being picked up from the webcam mic instead of my headphones.
That's
Okay, well that's really annoying. Everything I hear twice.
Oh God. Okay.
Well, I'll just not talk a lot, and then I can't be witty listening to myself.
Yeah, no, it's tough.
Maybe you should host the stream, Chris.
Yeah, maybe you should go back to hosting.
I want to do the animation thing. I want you to do the animation thing.
Could you?
No. Just hosting. Can't you just host
the call? Okay.
the call?
Okay. Can anyone hear me now?
Yeah, hang on. Well, they were hearing Kier and they were hearing me, so why couldn't they hear you? I don't understand.
Alright, I've had enough of this. Just call me. Wait, yeah. Okay.
People can hear you?
Alright, cool.
Yeah, add Kier. Well, you can tell who the streaming noob is here, eh?
Alright, there we go. Yeah, we don't have Kira on the call yet. I just called him. Hello.
Hi.
And now Chris is gone, it says.
That is messed up.
Okay, we can only do one of us then on the call. Yeah, this is fucking shitty. Alright.
That's really strange.
Okay, 15 actually. Alright. Can Kira say something? Can they hear you? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Sorry. Your volume even to me is like at least twice what Chris's is.
It's not a volume issue. No, it's like a mic. Okay, what are we gonna do then? Since it works with me and Brooks on there, I bet you if I hang up, it might work with Kira here. I don't want to do fucking troubleshooting while we're.
Yeah, no, it's just yeah.
So either that or we do the drawing thing, which I'm okay with, but I don't.
No. Like we've already put it off for 1 week. I can just not talk.
That doesn't do anything.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I'd go with the drawing thing and then sort out the Skype issue for next week. Would be what I would do. But if you want me to back out of the stream, I'm fine doing that too. Well, no, but if only one person can be on the mic or whatever, like.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're gonna have to.
Yeah. Next week.
Okay.
We'll do it.
Wait, we're not doing animation now?
Yeah. Oh, we are.
Oh.
I'm gonna drop Kira.
Okay.
All right.
It's be just you and me. How's that, everybody?
Okay. Just start animating.
I am animating. I haven't really stopped.
Okay. Well. Okay. That's weird.
Yeah, that's shitty.
Brooks, that is. Okay.
I'm fine.
Yeah, you're fine. Just talk about what you're doing and ignore me.
And nobody can hear you. Okay. Well, if you want to go and we bring Kier back on, that would work too. But yeah.
Yeah. We're gonna do that.
Okay.
But describe what you're doing and just host it,
Okay. I will.
and then call Kira.
I will. Okay. Hey, dude, it's you and me.
It's me and you.
That's right. Can everybody hear Kier? He's Kier.
You're gonna share your
We're part of Darkest Dungeon. I'm going to share my screen with you so you can see what the hell's going on, what I'm doing. So right now I'm just doing some of the, I've kind of got like the main, what I like is just kind of a main sort of loop going with him. So I'm just kind of looking at some of the other parts moving around, and move his belt down a little bit, kind of moving his satchel down.
So you are the only people that can hear.
Now it's just, God damn it!
I'm a whisper of madness.
What if I change this again? What if I change?
You're on your own. I can help field questions.
Okay, how about now? Let's try this. Because this worked before. This is my original setup where you and I could be heard.
So can I be heard now? No. I don't think so.
What is going on? That is so weird. I did not change anything from the original.
Yeah, no care.
No care.
No.
I'm going to blame Skype. I'm going to blame...
Sure.
Should I have automatically adjust microphone settings on? Should that be?
I have no idea. I've never live streamed a Skype call.
Oh, you've only joined them. Right, okay.
And I imagine there's something in Skype
Yeah.
Skype that is says, hey, this is where the audio is coming in for the stream. Like, we're gonna take the Skype call and make that the mic input
Yeah.
along with my own mic input. So,
Oop.
or it's OBS.
Yeah. I'm not sure. We tested it earlier and everything was fine. So,
Being told to hang up. So,
okay. You should hang out. Are you coming back? All right. I'm on my own. I am just going to. I'm going to have trouble answering questions this way.
Chris told me to hang up, so I think he's doing something else.
Okay. We can answer cues in the chat. All right. Well, we'll figure it out for next week. All right. Sorry, I just went on. I just opened the Twitch channel to see what the hell was going on. You got, yeah. You, if they can't hear you, you guys just field questions in the chat, and I'll just. Well, let's just make sure you'll watch the stream. All right, and I'll just chat. I'll just chat about whatever. I'm not very interesting, but you know. Yep. Yep. All right. So I'll just talk about what I'm doing. So you guys field questions. Again, what I'm doing is this is the basic. I've got kind of his basic movement down that I kind of like. Obviously, it's not offset yet, but I'm gonna start moving some of the bits here. Like for example, he moves up in his satchel. We kind of want to go closer to his body. Move in a little bit as his weight goes up. Maybe go down just a little bit more. I basically end up doing like a lot of like little just sort of, and I'll turn off the joints and have a look at it. Makes it a lot easier. If I feel like something's moving too much, like I feel like maybe that's just a wee bit too much, might pull it back a bit. Everybody's gonna watch me like scrub a lot as I just sort of like look at it. I see a question in this thing. It says, what will the animation markers on his mustache be used for? So I put joints in his mustache. And I don't know that I'll use those or not. I just rigged up his face like this. And I put like one on his beard. So I could actually like move his beard around a little bit. It's just to get secondary. And usually I'll just rig it anyway. I may not end up using it, or I may put it in depending on like, in some cases it might be so subtle that it's just, you won't even see it. But I kind of prefer to sort of like cover all the bases and then like go from there rather than sort of getting to the point where I'm like, and this just comes from working in 3D. It's like, I'd rather sort of over rig and then go into the rig when it's like, and have everything I need to animate with rather than not. So it's like, if I get to the point where I'm like, oh, I want to put secondary on his mustache and I haven't put joints in that, and then I have to go back and touch the rig. And I'd prefer to do it up front, get all the setup work like in a state where I'm like, I've got my bases covered if I want to do that, rather than, you know, having to constantly go back, because you don't want to go back and forth. You don't want to be like, get half your animation done and then go back and do like half your rigging because you're like, I didn't put enough joints in for secondary or whatever. So anyway, that's the thought process behind the mustache. We'll see if we actually end up animating it. So I move the screen around a lot when I talk. All right, so I started moving these scrolls around a little, excuse me, a little bit so that when the satchel goes down, these are going to pull down a bit. It's kind of better to also to, and this is just if you've ever gone to animation school, it's better to over animate than under animate. You basically want to like go crazy with it and then pull it back rather than sort of be very subtle in your animation and then sort of try to make it more extreme. So, oh, I didn't actually animate that joint on that frame. Yeah, so I'm just doing a little bit of the scroll here. It's probably going to move a little funny, but you can see as it goes down, I'll turn off the joints. So as it goes down, we kind of have like, the scroll's made of paper, so we're kind of having it flap down a little bit, so we get some kind of like nice movement there. Maybe that's a little more than I'd want. The other thing you got to kind of remember is that in the game, he's probably going to be like this on screen. So if I do something that's too subtle, it won't read in the game. You won't be able to see it. So it's kind of, again, it's better to sort of like go a little more extreme and go, hey, maybe that's more than that would actually move. But in the game, it'll read better. And then if I need to pull it back, I'll pull it back after instead of at the beginning. So I'm just going to leave that for now. This is dagger, so I'm going to move his dagger around a little bit. Kind of have it move to the side, come down a little bit on his belt. And then he's got some tassels here. So his tassels start sort of, I should probably actually have his tassels start it's more flat like that. Because again, Chris gives me full poses where he's kind of already in a bit of an action pose. He's not in like a T pose or an A pose that you would have in 3D where he's just, he's static. He's already kind of in a bit of a nice stance with a nice line of action and everything through him. So in some cases, it's like because of that, it's like Chris's drawing is basically like a frame of animation, right? It's like in mid move. So in that case, that's why like when I got it from him, the tassels were already sort of, look like they're sweeping away from the dagger here. So, so I think what I'll do. Oop, wrong one. Wrong joint. Is I'm just going to start them like that. I'm going to leave a little bit of space in there because it's nice to have nice spaces and not necessarily overlap in your poses. And something just happened. Okay, there we go. And that's probably a little too much. We'll bring it back a little bit. Oh yeah, that's way, 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 way too much. That's a little more. Sometimes I just got to pull the whole thing back and look at the whole animation as a whole, rather. Just to make sure everything's kind of working together. Yeah, that's I like that a little better. And then I'll probably pull these out a little bit. Again, that's pretty subtle, so I should probably make it read a little bigger. That's probably okay for now. I'll probably... I make no promises that this will be the final animation in the game. It might be, but I will probably make some tweaks to it after this is over. I'm just gonna move his belt down just ever so slightly. I press this button here for anybody that's paid attention to that, and it's bone compensation, which basically means every child joint underneath the joint you're moving won't get moved when you move it. So I wanted to move the belt without actually moving all the strap and all the stuff underneath it. So I just turned on that so I could move the belt independently, and then it doesn't affect all the other joints that are parented to it. All right, where are we at? Should probably save this. Always a good thing. Save often. I'm going to start working a little bit on his sleeves here. Actually, let's just set keys on all these guys on the frame we want. So as he moves his arm up, the sleeve's going to get pulled down a little bit. We'll just see what that ends up looking like. Again, this is an offset. It's happening on the same frame, but when you would move your arm, you obviously the movement of the sleeve wouldn't happen on the same frame. It would happen afterwards. So that was some animation 101 right there. Alright, I don't like what I did there, so I'm going to go and fix that. It's kind of moved a bit too much. Just looks like it's stuck to something. There, so he's moving his arm up, and that sleeve is flipping out a little bit, which is kind of nice. Oh, that guy first. Okay. Probably move that one about as equally as I move the other one. Or actually, I think I might have it go the other way. Yeah, I like that a little better rather than it sort of moving in the same direction. Which means I gotta move this guy back a little bit. I kind of feel like I'm just talking out into space because there's all this action happening in the chat, which I am not privy to. But hopefully people are learning something. Oh, somebody cares. Here are some questions from chat. How long have you been animating? Oh, thanks, Kier. So I took animation in film school 16 years ago, and then I got hired originally on as an animator at EA. But I haven't been animating for 16 years. I started my career as an animator And then I moved into like cinematics and kind of direct, and I would direct mocap and things like that. And then, but I haven't actually done production animation in a long time. I sort of moved more into the tools side of thing for artists, more of on a technical artist kind of job, and I got into art pipelines and some rigging, obviously, and stuff like that. I am kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. I've done just about everything you can think of. So, I'm not like Chris. Chris is like super highly specialized and is an amazing artist, and it's like you can just crank anything you want out. Um, I wish I was an animator at the caliber of his art level. That would be awesome. One day, if I keep doing this, maybe. What's another question? Brooks, do some characters on purpose have a lot less fluidity in their animation, like things like the skeletons? No, actually. The skeletons, it's funny because we talked about a bunch of different styles originally, to like what kind of animation style we should do. And one of the things we were sort of talking, like Chris originally kind of saw it as like, oh, they're like, kind of like paper cutouts, like standees. And my thing was, I was like, your art is amazing. I don't think we should do it a disservice by animating it in a way that doesn't really reflect. Like, I wanted to have the same fidelity, a level of quality of animation that Chris put into the art. So when I did a test with like doing it with like kind of like more paper cutout animation, I didn't like it. So then I did like guys like the ghoul and the skeletons, and I felt like even though the skeletons they're just bones, I actually put fluidity into them because they just read better rather than trying to make them like these stiff guys, if that makes any sense. Obviously things like armor and stuff like that don't deform, but like even though it's bones, I'm sort of treating it more like rotting flesh, I guess is the best best comparison I can sort of make there. Who has been the hardest and easiest hero to animate? Uh, this guy is actually probably one of the more complicated rigs I've had to do. Um, the ghoul was a real big pain. I keep coming back to him, but I put a lot of work into him, and he's probably one of the guys I'm the proudest of. If you were at PAX East and you got to see or play the game or seen some of the videos, the skeleton captain, he's got a lot of moving parts. He was quite difficult. Um, Sometimes it just comes down to what Chris draws. Like if Chris draws a guy with like lots of moving bits, like this guy's sleeves, then I'm gonna put probably there's gonna be the rig is gonna be more complicated. The animation's gonna be more complicated. So if he's got a mace and a suit of plate mail, then like the Crusader, he doesn't have as many moving bits. Like he doesn't move as sort of fluid. I guess he's probably a good example of a guy that doesn't move really fluid. His kind of arm does for holding his sword and stuff, but his armor and stuff, his secondary is very it's a lot more subdued than some of the characters wearing like cloth armor and stuff like that. Probably the easiest hero so far has been, I want to say the Vestal. Vestal. Actually, no, the Crusader is probably easiest because he was like all armor. The Vestal had like a cloth. She's got like robes like under her armor. So when I had to make her walk, I had to like scale her robes in a way that made sense. And this is before I had skinning, so it was a real. It's a kind of a fudgy mess. I'd love to go back to it and make it better. Um, any feature requests for spine other than the IK I'm waiting for legs? That would be awesome. That's probably the biggest thing we're waiting on right now. Actually, I think it's in the editor now. I believe it's not in the runtime yet, so we can't support it. So I've just stayed away from it until it's in the runtime. There's no point in me putting it into the rig because it just won't work. And I totally forgot where I was here. What am I doing? I think I was moving these things. Thanks, Kier, for doing that, by the way. Much appreciated. Now I might go back and change the first frame of this because it's got this big curve in it, and honestly, if he was kind of static, this wouldn't be like this. It would be, you know, more like this kind of thing. But I think I might screw it. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to fix it. And Chris can get mad at me later for changing it. And I'm going to copy all those to the last frame. And you cut and paste frames, which is nice. So bang, there it is. The last frame now matches the first frame. And now I'm going to have to change all the keys I did on the midpoint here. Another question. When you animate the jester, will you animate the jingle of the bells on his hat? Probably a little bit, yes. What's the small one on his ear? Oh, are we talking about this? That is actually, if you look at this up close, that's actually his hair back here, and I actually put it on there to like move his hair around. But again, it's black. Probably nobody will see it, but again, it comes back to that thing where I kind of like intentionally over rig at the beginning so that I'm not caught with my pants down later when I have to animate. We have a lute playing animation. I don't know. I don't have the source art from Chris yet, so I don't know what his Chris can maybe field that in the chat whether or not he's going to have a lute in like his idol or something, in which case, yeah, we could probably have him strum the lute if it's actually in his hands. Earlier you said it took 2 hours to finish character. That means one pose or all pose? That's one animation, not just the pose. So Chris gives me the poses. The animation is like 2 hours per animation because again, it's like, and probably the longest part of that is just cutting them up in Photoshop because it's, you know, Chris will give me stuff like an arm that's like, for example, here's a good example. So this guy's arm, our cultist's arm here, is completely in front of, you know, his body, like that. So Chris, if you can see over here, Chris has left me some arm behind it. So he actually gave me this on its own layer, and then the sort of the torso with the, you know, with the amputated shoulder here on another layer, so that I could move this around and I wouldn't have to fill in. I wouldn't basically I wouldn't have to cut along these edges and around these fingers and stuff in front of his body. I can just I'm like, I have all this right here. It's good, awesome. So I can move this safely without filling in, having to fill in the blanks. So, because the cutouts, just making the cutouts is a painstaking process, and there's really no way I thought about ways of automating it in Photoshop, but it would probably take me like a month to write something that did a good as job as me just doing it manually, and I would be done all of them by then. So I've just decided not to go down that route. I wrote the exporter from Photoshop because it was simply once I had all the cutouts, I was like, well, I don't want to export every layer individually, and we use a particular plugin called SuperPing, which we use, and that has special sort of settings and that sort of stuff. So I had to wrap the exporter I wrote that goes through all the layers and sets those settings and all, and basically spits all the images out in the proper directory for it to get picked up by Spine and all that kind of stuff. So. All right, where was I? I'm talking and not animating. I can't do both at the same time, apparently. Where was I here? All right, so move this out a little more. I probably am not going to finish today, unfortunately. So another question. Are there animations you could share that we've seen already to show the different skeleton structures? Yeah, I can totally do that. How about I show the skeleton captain here, one of the monsters, or the ghoul. We'll start with this guy. Oh, good. Okay, that's a problem. Hang on, let me change. Probably his images directory is wrong. So this is just showing missing images, so I can't show him. You're just going to get a big insight into something that just happened on our project recently, which was we did a whole bit of directory reorganization for characters, or sorry, for monsters, because we're supporting progression. Yeah, all these guys are going to be broken right now. So, if you can see this, I wonder if I could turn all the images. So there's the ghoul. So that's the ghoul skeleton right there. Unfortunately, I don't have the images right. I wish I could. Let's see if I can fix this really easily. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. And that's something I'm going to have to need to go back and fix. I'm going to show a hero because I know all those guys are still okay. So, for example, I'm going to show the bounty hunter, and I'm going to show his combat idol. So this guy is done. This is a done animation. So this is the bounty hunter, and that's him looping. That's his combat loop. And then I've got these things in the on his scale mail here, moving on the shoulder. I actually put those in, but I never used them. And I thought about putting them in his hauberk here down here, but I never did because that was too much. I have his rope stretching a little bit, and I like the movement on his hook. Even his scroll is kind of deforming a little bit as his chest actually breathes in and out. And his mask here is moving. You can see it moving out as he breathes as well. So, and then I'm going to show this because nobody's probably seen a walk. So I'm going to show the bounty hunter's walk just to give another impression. So I would have gotten this pose, which is the same as the idol from Chris, and then there's his walk. So we spent a long time talking about walks and how we were going to do them, and how much art support I would need and that sort of stuff. And then Chris sort of mocked something up really quickly and said, do you think you can make it work with the idols like this? And then I gave it a shot, and it worked, so which is good because it means he doesn't have to draw a completely separate starting pose for the walks, or sort of 4 different poses for the walks. And I could just go from the idol and sort of hack it up a bit. I've done a couple of funny things, like I've actually reversed his foot here, so it looks like he's walking. But if we go to his idol, this is just a little bit of trickery. If I go to his idol, his foot is actually... Oh wait, maybe I didn't flip that foot. In some cases, the back foot will actually be flipped. Because it's like the toe is pointing the other way, so I point it inward so it actually looks like he's walking, but maybe I didn't do that in this case. So, yeah, anyway. I'm sorry I couldn't show a monster, but I'm going to have to figure out what is going on there with those images. I will show a monster next time. How's that? We also have some other stuff in the game that animates just to like we have an obstacle, which is a bunch of rubble, which kind of crumbles down as you clear it, so that's animated. And all the effects are animated. I'll quickly, because I'm going to run out of time here. I'm going to show an effect. I'm going to show. Let's show this one. So this is the Crusader, one of the Crusader's attacks, and so Chris will give me again all these little bits and pieces, and then we'll talk about how we want all this to kind of move. And in this case, I've got the silhouette of the Crusader's pose, so I've just done that so that he's so that's what the pose actually looks like. And I've just made it black because the pose doesn't actually get exported with the actual effects. So we actually because we'll attach lots of different effects to the same pose. Like he has this pose where he's holding up the scroll, but he might have two abilities where he uses his pose, but the effects are actually different. So this effect is actually different than, say, some other attack he has. And in this case, so there's the thing. So this thing slams in, and these rays shoot out, and this starburst here kind of twirls around in the background, and then we have this sort of like highlight, like the scroll's being lit up, and it actually like creates a rim light on his. It's really easy to see on the silhouette, obviously, this rim light, but that will be that gets basically applied right on top of the actual character in the game when he does his attack. So right on top of that pose, and it ends up looking quite good, and it's sort of like a fakey light solution because we don't have like real-time lighting the characters. So it would be great to see an attack pose. Let me grab one of those real quickly. Let's grab. Well, you saw that one for the Crusader there, but let's see somebody else. Like here's the Bounty Hunter. We'll give you a sneak peek because there probably too many people haven't seen the Bounty Hunter stuff. So there's his hook attack. And again, there's no actual animation on this. It's static. It gets played with a bunch of camera move and other stuff, but the attack pose itself is actually doesn't have animation. It'd be something that I would love to go back if we ever had the time to like just slightly animate these things, because everything gets, the attack cam is like kind of a slow-mo. It's like this thing's happening in this really slowed down space of time, because obviously if it anyway, it would be cool to like maybe slightly animate this slowly as if it was really, the rope was really moving through the air, but that is probably something that we may not have time to get to. I'd love to put like a little bit of animation on everything because it breathes a lot of life into it. But yeah. So anyway, so that's the attack thing for him, and this functionally in the game, this thing actually pulls guys from the back ranks into the front ranks. So that's kind of like one of his powers. So yeah, there we go, and we're at 4:59, or at least that's my time. So I should probably think about wrapping this up. Chris, Kier, are we good? Did we answer questions? One of you want to ping me here? Just 1 second. Anyway, thanks everybody for listening. I really appreciate it. Sorry we had some technical difficulties with the Spine group chat, but hopefully everybody didn't become annoyed with the sound of my voice over the last hour, and will, check us out again next week, because if I'm not animating, I'll probably at least be talking. So, all right. Anyway, see you next week, everybody. Thanks for checking us out.